Everywhere we turn, somebody's telling us what's true. A news anchor on TV, a podcast host, a post on social media, maybe even someone we know passing along something they saw. But here's the real question. Can we trust the messenger, the source itself, before we even think about the message? And here's why that matters. If the messenger fails the reliability test, we can stop right there. No need to waste time or emotions on the message that follows. That's how this step actually saves us time.
From anyone, we stand American together.
Here's the first thing to know. No source is perfect. Mistakes happen. Bias slips in, and if any source wants you to trust them blindly, that's a big red flag. Reliability isn't about being flawless. It's about showing a consistent pattern of accuracy and honesty over time. Reliable sources show their work, cite their evidence, and correct their mistakes. Unreliable sources, they hide the process, play on our emotions, and rarely admit when they're wrong. And here's the tough reflection. Sometimes we call a source reliable just because it tells us what we already want to hear. We talked about this back in episode 2 when we looked at those psychological barriers that make us resist new information. Hard to admit, right? I catch myself doing this too, but being willing to separate what we want to hear from what's actually reliable, that's how we grow. Truth check. So where do we even start? We can't research every source on the planet. None of us has that kind of time. Here are a few ideas for a starter pack of sources if you don't already have one. Established outlets with clear editorial standards. Yes, even if they lean left or right. Public data sites like census.gov, CDC, or your state's election office. Nonpartisan research groups like Pew Research Center. And if you want to go further, organizations like the News Literacy Project or Media Bias Fact Check publish lists of outlets with reliability ratings. You don't have to follow those lists blindly. And I don't recommend following any list blindly. But they can give you a baseline while you're building your new habit of spotting and verifying reliable sources. And here's something to think about. If you don't have time to check whether a new source is reliable, do you really want to let that information into your thoughts and emotions? Sometimes unreliable sources don't just waste our time. They pull us into outrage, fear, or stress that we didn't need to feel in the first place. If the topic is interesting or important, look it up again from a source you already trust. That way, you're filling your mind with stronger material and protecting your peace of mind in the process. Hard to admit, right? Sometimes we invite in noise or stress without even realizing it. But being mindful of which messengers we allow into our thoughts, that's how we would protect both our time and our peace of mind. Truth check. Let's walk through a simple tool you can use whenever you're unsure about a source, the reliability checklist. We'll go through it twice. First, just the questions to ask. Then we'll practice together with a real headline so you can see how it works. Here's our reliability checklist. Let's go through it one step at a time. First is author. Who wrote it or published it? Are they qualified to speak on this topic? Is it coming from a major outlet with clear editorial standards like AP, Reuters, NPR, BBC, or NBC, or from someone anonymous with no accountability. Author is about who is behind the message right now. Next is evidence. Does the piece back up its claims with data, documents, or named experts? Or is it just a bold claim with nothing behind it? Reliable sources show their work. Then comes transparency. Does the article explain what is not yet known? Reliable reporting will say things like, the investigation is ongoing, or so far no evidence confirms a link. That honesty matters. Fourth is reputation. This is different from author. Author is about who is speaking today. Reputation is about their track record over time. Have they been accurate in the past? Do they issue corrections when they make mistakes? Outlets with a history of correcting errors build more trust than ones that never admit when they're wrong. And finally, cross-check. Can you confirm the same information with another independent, trusted source? For health news, that might be the CDC or Mayo Clinic. For numbers, it might be census.gov or your state's official website. Reliable sources don't stand alone. They can be confirmed. That's the checklist. Author, evidence, transparency, reputation, cross-check. 5 quick questions that can save you time and protect your peace of mind. Now let's practice by running this real headline through the checklist. Health experts investigate doctor who died weeks after receiving COVID vaccine. Let's start at the top with author. This was published by NBC News, a major outlet with established editorial standards. That gives them credibility and reliability because it means they use editors, fact-checking, and correction processes. Next, evidence. The article mentions the CDC is investigating, but it doesn't give any confirmed cause of death or medical detail. That's not enough evidence to back the headline. Now, transparency. The headline says, health experts investigate doctor who died weeks after receiving COVID vaccine. That makes it sound like there's a connection. But look right under it. The subline admits, though there is currently no medical or scientific evidence to suggest that the doctor's death was triggered by the vaccine, the CDC is conducting a routine investigation. That's a big difference. The headline pulls you in with drama, while the fine print explains the limits of what's actually known. Reliable reporting should make that clear up front, not bury it in smaller text. Reputation is next. NBC has a generally good reputation for accuracy, and they issue corrections. But even reliable outlets sometimes write headlines that emphasize drama to grab attention. This story is one of those cases. Finally, cross-check. When we look at other independent health sources like the CDC and Mayo Clinic, they confirmed at the time that no link had been proven between the vaccine and the death. That tells us the headline was more dramatic than the reality. So when we finished the checklist, only the author step passed. Everything else raised concerns. And here's the key. If a source fails multiple checks, you don't have to give it more of your time or emotions. You can stop right there. That saves you energy and protects your peace of mind from worry or outrage that might not be merited. Truth check. Some unreliable sources are easy to spot. Sloppy typos in the headlines, sketchy URLs with odd endings or random numbers, outrageous headlines in all caps with lots of exclamation points. Those are the obvious giveaways. If you see them, you can stop right there. But others are more polished. They know exactly what will pull us in: outrage, fear, curiosity. And why do they do this? Because every single click equals money. That's why I try not to click on sensational bait. Every click tells them to make more of it, and I don't want to encourage or reward that. It's called clickbait for a reason. The American Heritage Dictionary defines bait as to entice or provoke, especially by trickery or strategy. And that's exactly what unreliable sources are doing, strategically using what psychologists know about human nature to trick us. They lean on the same psychological barriers we talked about back in episode 2, like confirmation bias and overconfidence bias, because those barriers make us more likely to click before we think. Here's the reflection. Sources that profit from our outrage don't care if we're informed. They care if we're hooked. Protecting ourselves means more than peace of mind. It's about guarding our integrity and refusing to be manipulated into beliefs we might never have accepted without the trickery. Truth check. Do you have to recheck a trusted source every single time? Not from scratch. Once a source proves itself reliable, you can lean on it more heavily. But here's the catch. Reliability isn't permanent. A respected outlet can change ownership, an editor can shift direction, a writer can drift from reporting into opinion. Think about your local newspaper. Maybe you trusted it for years, but then it was bought by a big national chain. Suddenly, there were more ads, fewer reporters, and less depth. Same name, but not the same reliability. So, what changes might you notice? More dramatic headlines than before, fewer facts, more opinion or commentary, a sudden shift in tone or focus, like covering lots of national stories but ignoring your local community. Those are signals it may be time to rerun the checklist. So give reliable sources more weight, but stay alert. If something feels off, that's your cue to pause. It protects your peace of mind and your integrity, because you're less likely to be blindsided by a shift you didn't notice. Reliable today doesn't guarantee reliable tomorrow. Staying alert keeps us grounded, prepared, not paranoid. Truth check. Some people dismiss mainstream media. They're not perfect. They make mistakes, and yes, some lean left or right. But here's why they still matter. They employ trained journalists. They have editorial standards, and when they get it wrong, many issue corrections. Even if you don't agree with their lean, they give you a baseline. You at least know what one side is saying, and that keeps you involved, current, and in the know about the conversation happening in our country. For example, watch CNN and Fox side by side. The lean may be different, but you'll quickly see what's emphasized and what's left out. Compare a mainstream outlet like NBC or CBS to a wire service like Reuters or the Associated Press. The wire stories are usually short, simple, and stick to the basic facts. The networks often add more context, interpretation, or commentary around those facts. Or check NPR next to a local paper. NPR may give you national context, while your paper shows you how the story plays out close to home. You don't have to blindly trust them, But ignoring them completely leaves you with no place to start, no baseline to compare against. And it leaves you unaware of what's even being discussed. Mainstream outlets are tools. They keep us involved and current, and they're a starting point, not the finish line. Truth check. Checking sources may feel overwhelming at first, but like any new habit, it gets easier. Patterns start jumping out. Red flags almost wave themselves. So here's your challenge. Pick one of your go-to sources this week. Run it through the reliability checklist. Who's behind it? Do they cite evidence? Do they correct mistakes? Drop what you find in the comments. Let's learn from each other. And remember, this isn't about creating one master list everyone agrees on. It's about building the habit of noticing which messengers really earn our trust and protecting ourselves from those who try to trick or manipulate us. That's how we protect not just our peace of mind, but our integrity. Truth check. This space isn't about censoring or forcing people to agree. It's about taking time to pause, notice what's driving our reactions, and come to the conversation with openness, self-awareness, and a willingness to really listen together. I welcome different views, but I expect respect. Disagree? That's great. Explain why. Have a different angle? Share it. Here we use our differences as strengths, not weapons. And if you'd like a little extra help shaping your reply, I've linked my 3 Ps in Action comment edition in the description. It's the same process I use myself to pause, pinpoint truth, and proceed with purposeful forethought. Don't worry about reading all this here. The full list of sources is in the description and on my site, american-together.com. I share them because checking sources matters just as much as checking headlines. Hit the thumbs up and join the conversation in the comments. Together, we're not just watching, we're building something. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. See you next time. Remember, pause, pinpoint truth, proceed with purposeful forethought. Join the conversation. See you next time.